Welcome to Power Fridays Live, the channel that aims to make a difference in the world through transformation, spiritual growth, and for entrepreneurs. Our vision is to empower individuals to live their lives with purpose and to make a positive impact on the world. We believe that power and purpose are the driving forces behind success and fulfillment in both personal and professional life. Through our broadcast, we discuss business strategies and techniques that can help entrepreneurs achieve their goals and take their business to the next level. We believe that through sharing knowledge and experience, we can empower each other to succeed and make a difference in the world. Now here's our host, Janel Pulley.
Hello, welcome to Power Fridays Live. I'm your host, Janel Pulley, and we have the pleasure of speaking with Tyesha Harvey, aka Candy Baby, as her pen name. She's a powerful woman who I met recently, and I just had to have her come and share her story with us, this month because her life could have went in different directions. She's a very powerful woman and that has a great story to tell. And so we're super excited. She's an author, so I'm very excited to hear more about her books, but we'll talk about that a little later. And if you're watching us on the replay, please put hashtag replay in the chat, and please, share this video with someone so that you can empower them to live a life that they love. And tonight, I introduce to you Tyesha Harvey. Welcome, Tyesha. How are you tonight?
Hello, I am doing well this evening, and I hope everyone is well and you're good. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being a yes and taking out the time. I know you're in the sunny California. How are things on the West Coast?
Today is hot. It's hot.
Yes.
I'm melting. I was scared all my makeup was gonna melt off. Some of it did already before we started today. We're melting.
You're melting. Well, we want to make sure that, we have a conversation, and we know looks are important, but we know that you have a story to share and a story to tell, and you may be taking that makeup off a little bit, and you may be having some other people out in the audience, their makeup may be melting too from hearing your powerful story. But I know that you have a powerful story to share, and we're all about power, we're all about purpose, and what power that God gave you to get through your life and your situation. So can you start by telling us a little bit about how you grew up or where you grew up?
I am originally from Los Angeles, California. I don't say any particular part of Los Angeles because I went to 8 elementary schools. Okay, I lived on the west side of California, LA. I've lived on the east side of LA. I've lived in Compton. I've lived in Inglewood. So I'm just a LA girl. I'm from Los Angeles County, and growing up in LA is adventurous. Not I mean, there in the household, there's some traumatic experiences, but as far as being a kid in LA, it was an adventure. I remember us taking our bikes by Emmanuel Arts High School and LA High School and walking all the way up the hill on 18th Street and coming down the hill on our bikes and running around, finding things that we could get into, selling candy. That was our little hustle, so we could buy toys from KB toy stores and catching the trains. I grew up in a time where we weren't fearful. There wasn't so much fear mongering about children being snatched and kidnapped. So we were allowed to go outside and experience life and have our own adventures and mishaps and things like that. So growing up in LA it was fun. It's an adventure. And then we have the beach and it's sunny all the time. So didn't really have to worry about snow days or anything like that. We were able to go out and find the world.
Oh, that's wonderful. You were able to explore and be back by the time that the street lights came on like the rest of the world, right?
Yes, we had to be in by street lights. My mom worked a lot and she hung out a lot at night, so sometimes she didn't know whether we was there. Honestly, we was there not by the time street lights came on, but when she was there, yes, we did have to make it in by street lights.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, I know that I'm gonna, I know certain things, and there's a lot about you that I don't know, and so we'll dive right in because you have a powerful story to share. And growing up in the streets of LA, it's the boys in the hood. Did that really depict a real life uh, atmosphere for how life was? Because I know it was probably like at a different time, but we have movies to look at to like base our stereotype about LA and growing up.
Boys in the Hood did John Singleton and Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. He did capture a day in LA, but Ice Cube also did a very good job in the very first Friday of a day in Los Angeles, being a kid in Los Angeles and the things that go on. We did have the gangs and stuff, and I did live in very gang infested neighborhoods, but as a kid, those was like my uncles. So they were sort of my protectors. It
Mm,
wasn't, I didn't have the same fear for them. They weren't the bad guys that the media depicted. They were the guys that gave me $1 when the ice cream truck came. Or if there was something going on in the neighborhood, if there was something going on in the neighborhood, they were the ones to tell us to go in the house and go under your bed and hide until we tell you guys it's okay to come out. And that was a normal childhood for us. It wasn't out of the ordinary to hear gunshots and to know to duck down.
okay, well, wow, it just that puts chills on my body just to imagine. I grew up in rural America, and to know that growing up in the city and that you survived that atmosphere that you grew up in. And oftentimes we do have that older generation that is protecting us, so I'm like super happy to like learn about that. And it really brings happiness to me in knowing that the people who other people would fear, those were the people that you didn't fear. And then those were the people who were family, and so family looked out for family.
Yeah, family looked out for family. We are There was a time in my life where family was all we had, and that was when family isn't. I learned at an early age, family isn't necessarily blood, but it's the people you surround yourselves with, and the
Hmm.
people that look out for you and eat with you, cry with you, and just go through the mud with you. And that's what I learned early on, and that was my family.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I do agree with you that, family's not just the blood relatives that we were related to and the people who have our backs. So thanks so much for sharing that. And, I want to, I guess preface the next phase, of your life, because I know you had some challenges and some struggles. But you did graduate high school. Yes or no?
I
Okay.
graduated high school at was I still more? I graduated high school while I was in Penny Lane Placement, which is a juvenile extension to a juvenile hall. And my judge would not release me, even though I had after my 18th birthday until I completed at least a GED, because he said, when my life is over, when the trouble that I was in, as he framed it, was over, I was still going to have another life ahead of me, and he was going to send me into that next life prepared already.
Hmm. And do you feel like that you were prepared for that next life?
When that time came, yeah, but it wouldn't come for nearly 20 years later. So, but I
Okay.
was prepared.
Okay, great. So can you fill us in the gap with the 20 years from your time in juvie to the time that you overcame the obstacles and what you endured?
Um, at the age of 13 is when I start living in the streets. My mother and I weren't getting along too well, and I couldn't stay with her any longer. And I start dealing with a drug dealer, and I talk about him in my book. The drug dealer went to jail, and I met a guy who showed me another way to make some money. In addition to growing up around a lot of gang members, I grew up around a lot of pimps and prostitutes, and I have a lot of them in my family as well, which was another normalized way of life for me growing up. And I ended up being with the pimp from the age of 14 all the way until 30 years old. And I hate when people say you don't know your worth, because our worth is what our idea of worth is at the time. And my idea of worth was put into what someone can pay me for my body, which had already been taken from me before. And there was empowerment to me at that time, and someone giving me money for my body as opposed to just taking it from me. And that is pretty much, I go into all the intricate details in my book
Okay.
about exactly what happened step by step. I don't want to give out too much.
No, and we don't want to get kicked off Facebook either.
Yeah, we don't want to, but I did spend nearly 2 decades going across the United States
Yes.
making money with in a prostitution ring, basically.
Hmm.
Um, and some other countries with girls and with other girls and with the man who was kind of the orchestrator of it. And well, not kind of, was the orchestrator of it. There were many traumatic experiences that happened throughout, from being raped to being drugged, beaten, not always necessarily by the guy who was orchestrating it, but about people who are supposed to protect and serve us as well. And I go into detail about that as well. And what saved me was, I always said, if I had children, I did not want my children to grow up in the same type of lifestyle that I did. And the moment I became pregnant with my children, I knew that I was going to find a way out. And there was more trials and tribulations
Hmm.
getting out. I spent nearly a year homeless with my twins, coming out. I stayed in shelters. We stayed at hospitals. Uh, God.
So God blessed you with a family to, and that was that support that you had, and that love that you had for your children helped you gain the strength. It sounds like, that you needed to escape that lifestyle.
Yeah, my children were my reason. They are. I call them my lifesavers.
Oh,
They were my life jackets when I was drowning.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Your children, and of course, we did speak before the broadcast here tonight, and we shared like the power of God, and that you look to Him from whence cometh your help, because you knew your help came from the Lord. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I
You
I
probably
wouldn't be
can't put into
sitting.
words specifically, but yeah.
I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you if it wasn't for God. I don't regret anything that's ever happened to me. I always say that God put me through every single test that He did to help me create my testimony. And my testimony is what I use to empower and help other women like myself, or who are in the same situation that I was once upon a time, to help them steer away. And I everything comes to me. I don't do anything without talking to God first. And the only reason why I'm sitting here talking to you right now is because God kept His hands over me the whole time in order to build me up for this testimony. Some people call it resilience, but I'm not this strong. God is within me, and that's what keeps me going in this fight.
Yes, Jesus is our help in the time of struggle, and God gives us the strength, and He's our refuge in the time of need. So I'm so glad that you're living in a Psalm 37 life with seeking God as your refuge.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing about that. And then, like, your book, what inspired you to start writing?
I I said I was gonna write a book back in like 2005, and my grandfather has been bugging me about it for years. And I said at the beginning of this year, I'm pouring everything into my pen. I have been writing. I've been writing for the last 8 years, and I've been working on this book. And the story hasn't been It hasn't been completed to me. I feel as though my writing talks to me and let me know, like, hey, I'm done. You can start on the next project. And this year, at the end of last year, I had like an epiphany. And I was like, because I have a memoir too. And my epiphany was, don't people don't know you as a writer. They know you as a public speaker. They know you as a motivational speaker. They know you from the anti-trafficking movement. Let people get to know you as a writer. What you need to do is tell a little bit of your story in sequels and tell some of the other people who were around you their stories as well. And I literally, the first book that's coming out, that's part of the sequel, I wrote Ladybug's story, and I am Ladybug. Ladybug is based on my life in 12, 13 hours. I just sat down and I kept writing, and I had to start writing about when I was in DC and when I was in Chicago and when I was in New York. And I wanted to tell I wanted to tell my story in a way where it doesn't just victimize me, but it helps people to understand this underworld that I lived in, which was a lifestyle for so many years, from a different perspective, not just the big black guy that abuses the women and wears the funny looking clothes, but the trauma bonds that are involved, the creation of family, to raise awareness of pay attention to your children. The Jenny Jones show was like one of my biggest influences as a kid. I sat and watched that for hours and hours, and we all know what was going on the Jenny Jones show with the gold diggers and stuff. It had a big influence on me and my way of thinking, as well as what was going on in my house. And I wanted to raise awareness by about these things. And I decided, since it's kind of like, how do I say this? I don't want to articulate this in a way where it passes judgment. There's a cap put on it in most when people talk about sex trafficking and the anti-trafficking movement. There's one particular narrative that's sent out that they like to stick to, and I wanted to change it. And the only way I could change it is by telling my story the way that I want to tell my story instead of the way that fits someone else's narrative.
Okay,
Does
well,
that make sense, or did I prattle?
it did makes perfect sense, and I do appreciate that from you. Because there's a lot of things that are going on in the media, and there's so much that we don't know. I've heard stories. We see Lifetime movies, right? We see different TV shows that maybe touch on it, but the sensitivity of it. But it's like this woman, just this little girl, she's been kept captive for how many years, and someone stole her. So
That's kidnapping. That's not
right.
sex trafficking.
Right. But yeah, so you have that movie, that someone stole a child, but then ended up being sold to be a sex trafficker. So
Hmm.
those kind of stories come out in those programs. But then you hear about the kidnapping stories too, and but then you don't know what all they did to that person, when they were in that
Hmm.
captivity. And so is sex trafficking captivity in a sense?
It's more of sex trafficking is captivity. I wasn't trafficked. I was in the sex industry, and
Hmm.
that's a captivity of of the mind. Those are mental chains. It was
It's like being in the wilderness, to give
it's
it a
like
little.
being in the wilderness. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate the difference between what I went through and what sex trafficking is. Sex trafficking
Yeah,
is kidnapping of someone and
yeah.
forcing them to sell sex. The sex industry
Hmm.
itself is it's a mental imprisonment that's not physical. There is abuse within it, the part of the game the part of the lifestyle that I was involved in. There is abuse, there is physical abuse, there is sexual abuse. but there's also an extreme amount of mental abuse that is solidified by how society treats women that come from the area that I came from.
Mhm.
Society plays a big role in it as well. But they don't take responsibility. Everything is blamed on the pimp, the pimp, the pimp, the pimp. If I go and I seek out resources to get away from the pimp, and resources aren't given to me, and I'm not allotted those resources because I'm a dirty, filthy prostitute and I'm not a human being that's in need of help, then everything the pimp says, as far as nobody ever help you and you're not worth anything, is then solidified. So where else do I go? And that's what I mean by it's more of a mental thing, and society plays a big role, but they don't take accountability for the role that they play.
You're right, because I mean, at the end of the day, you turn it on another flip side of the coin in the vision, there has to be people who are actually paying the pimp for the services that are being rendered. So
Yeah.
it's like a money exchange and on a different level. And your body becomes a commodity of sorts and recyclable. I think between money and prostitution, those are the top two recyclable things in the world. Because you you drink water out of a bottle, you can recycle it, but then the one thing about that you give away that you still keep is your body.
Body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it. Of course, I'm not the author or finisher of anything that we're talking about, but when you really like think about it, it's like they just paid for that, but I just got to keep it.
Yeah.
And I can keep recycling, keep getting money, getting money, getting money. So I'm supporting someone and helping him write his book from his perspective of having been the pimp, and so it's just like really fascinating that you can go through these experiences. Now you're writing about it. It's a form. Do you find it for yourself a form of therapy?
It is when I write about certain situations, and yeah, it is. It's therapy in a way that I didn't think of it, especially when I talk about my like childhood and things that I haven't even talked to a therapist about. Um, the friends I lost, because I've lost a few friends with through this journey, and when I talk about them, it was therapy. I got a chance to, through my writing, say out loud things that I hadn't said for a very long time, that I haven't even thought, that I've suppressed for a lot of years.
Well, I'm glad all in all you can depend on God. And when you had your beautiful children that were a gift from the God, that you were able to overcome the challenges that you face and get the help that you need. So, what would you consider being? And I don't want to give your book away. I know it's a powerful book, and when I heard you speak, I was like, oh my gosh, she's a powerful woman. And when you look at that, it's like, what was that? Power that came about with you, looking at your children, what was it that got you to where you are now?
God, you mean what God? God, God, I'm a hot mess on a cold platter on my own. My children were sent to me through God to help save me. Around the time I was pregnant, I was in a very, very dark place. I was in transition mode, trying to figure out what did I want to do next. Was this all I ever was gonna be doing? How long, much longer this was gonna last? And my children came, and they were God sent, because I can't fail them, and God is not gonna let me fail myself. He's not gonna let me fail, because he knows how I feel about failing them, and I can't. Their lives are in my hands, so I
Mhm.
can't fail. That's not an option.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. God is the way. There's no other way but God. And I see that beautiful black queen in the back. And someone just said, "It's Candy Baby, you go queen." And all I can focus on is that picture and behind you. Can you tell us a little bit about that photo?
This is the photo. Let me move out the way. Can y'all still hear me like that? That is the
Yes.
cover of my book. That is Horror Stories, which is a play on the word horror, but we put a W in front of it. And this is the first book for the sequel. This is Ladybug's story. There are two other stories that are following it. And when I see how the first three stories go, I may continue. I've done a few reads, and so far everyone is in love with it. It's really cinematic. When you read it, you can picture the words. I am very good at storytelling, not to toot my own horn. Horror stories, it is about Ladybug, who Ladybug is basically me, and it talks about her experience when she first met the person that she's with, which is Apache, one of the characters. How they met, where they met at. They go on an adventure together. There's two other women in the story, Mindy and Monica, and it just tells the story as they navigate throughout the country together. The three of them, they're kind of like the Three Stooges. It's a lot of drama in it. It's a lot of suspense. It is in the urban novel genre, and that's because I stick to the language that was used. I use a lot of urban language, a lot of slang throughout the book, but it is a very good story when you read. When you read into it, it does something that most books that are written by girls who were in the industry don't do, and it humanizes the pimp, actually, because we're in his book is following, but we talk about his trauma as well and his experience growing up. We don't just talk about all the trauma that Ladybug goes through and how they trauma bonded, and it created a toxic it's a very toxic relationship, but it's also a relationship that's there's love within the relationship that neither one of them understand. They don't understand how to love one another because they don't love themselves enough.
Mm. Wow, that's powerful because we talk about bringing about loving yourself, and of course the love that God has for us, that agape love, we can't escape it. So you weren't able to escape the love that God has for you, Taisha, and I'm so happy for you in regards to that. And your story's powerful. It sounds like a fun novel to read. It sounds like it will be very entertaining, and it's going to be available to everyone in November. So, Christmas stocking stuffer, I believe I would label it as that. And if you are a lover of urban novels, then this would definitely be a great read for you, and on the adult level,
Yes, it
naturally
is very adult.
on the adult level. So we have want to make that disclaimer. And so as we wrap up, how can we reach you? What's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is you can follow me on Instagram at Candy Baby Pen. You also can reach me on Twitter, as well as through email. Candy Baby Pen is right there. Email twinguardian2015 at gmail.com. But the best way to get in contact with me, Candy Baby Pen on IG. I reply back pretty quickly. I don't leave anyone on 2 and 3 day reads and stuff like that. I'm always willing to collaborate, work with other creators, and yeah, get the book. Get the book when it comes out. Look for the book, and you can always my follow my journey. Follow my journey. I'm going to an open mic tonight. I'm always on stages sharing my gift of spoken word, as well as sharing about my books. So follow
Can
me.
you leave us with a little bit of your spoken word? Just something from the heart, or something that you can leave us with that's like, yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna get that, and ooh, she's the ooh, I love it.
For this
Just
show,
let us feel it.
I'm gonna do testimony. It's the side of me, the Booker T, the Sojourner Truth. Chains is all we got to lose. There will be landfills with mines on this journey of growth, but through those pitfalls, remember Jake said it best. Every inspirational testimony has to pass the test. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. See, I got something to prove to them folks, and I owe myself this win too. Each time life lets me down, I think of where I began and how far I've come. From taking places on drunken stages with faceless patrons, 9 inch heels, heavily intoxicated, pedophilistic tricks, or should I say pricks, sicker than sick. Shorty make you holler for a few $100s. Champagne rooms, but beer budgets for the soul sold. Shattered dreams went from collecting paper to writing papers, from club back rooms to college classrooms. Pull out a chair. I earned my seat here. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. On this planet, this plantation, mental chains replace physical chains. Money exchange because master plays on our background of emotional pain. Negligence, physical and sexual abuse. Soft whispers of I love yous in exchange for red bottom shoes. Now, bring daddy home another bankroll. It's a game where everybody lose. Take that back. I thank you, and I thank you. God built me beautifully. Perfect divinity until the world rerouted me, grew me, gave me the streets to set me up for the corporate pimps that were next. Squares just have a different host of pimps, Johns, and stages. This testimony was written for me without my permission. No escaping nor running away, just moving beyond getting through some kind of new tomorrow. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. Rode Tubman Railroad to set us free. The conductor took me cross country and abroad from Times Squares, Hollywood lights, arrest at customs, and Heathrow, to name a few. That choosing fee wasn't too extreme, but choosing us to choose me was the pure extreme. Homeless nights with newborn twins, riding trains to the next bag, to trotting infants with diaper bags, no bands, prayers, hope, faith, bonding me. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. Girl, it's not that hard. Remember who you come from. Booker T slept on concrete streets. Phyllis Whitley gave you poetry. Queen Azania Warrior lives within. When I prayed for freedom for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. Frederick Douglass yelled, and I let my legs carry me through the hard nights. I hear the ancestors talking to me, realizing I went from high-rise condos to Roachfield one bedrooms. How did I get here? Mommy, we depend on you. My children cry late nights on work nights as I study on bare floors with ladder and lit night lights, welfare lines, sleeping on streetcars, motor cars. Most days I didn't see myself making it this far. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. Little mama, hold your head up high because you came too far to give up now. Take a bow and scream out loud. Truth is, ain't I woman? Truth is, I started this journey to break generational curses like Sojourner. Truth is, I will fight to the last breath in me. Truth is, I'm still that woman that take Angela Davis stance. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, but changing the things I cannot accept. This is my testimony. I came too far to give up now. There's more fight, more life. More fight, more life, more tests, because what is a testimony without a test? There's no regrets. I thank you, and I thank you, and I thank you for my testimony. And I came way too far to give up now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was so wonderful. That was so powerful. You are so gifted, and we know all gifts come from God. So please do like, share, follow Power Fridays Live, follow Candy Baby on IG, Candy Baby Pin. That was fire, girl. Like,
Thank you.
it
Thank
was
you
so
so much.
beautiful, and you are so beautiful, and we just thank you for joining us tonight and sharing about your story, sharing about your book. All of the things that in the journey that we call life. God has a special gift that He's given each and every one of us, and you are living your gift. And so I'm very grateful and thankful. And may God continue to bless you and your babies and really continue you on a positive journey that that you will your cup runneth over, okay, and then you won't even have room enough to receive it, is what the Bible says. So we always say, here on Power Fridays Live, about the greatness in you. Be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is in you. And so, thanks so much for joining us. And as I close out, I'm going to share this information with us, because September is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and your life is, you only have that one life to live. So, you want you to live your best life. That's all we have for you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do like, share, and subscribe to Power Fridays Live. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good evening. See you next week.